can you learn German fast? As a native German speaker, I've taught a bunch of people German, and on the journey I've seen a lot of painful mistakes and also amazing strategies that worked. And I'm gonna point them out in this video to save you a lot of time and hassle. Now, I want to be very honest and straightforward with you. If you're motivated to learn a language, it's going to be easier from the start. So having a goal in mind like, oh, I want to study and work in Germany, or I want to be able to complain with Hans about the German train system, these goals are really beneficial. Ach, das gibt's doch nicht. Ich hasse die Bahn. Ja, ich auch. Lass Freunde werden. There are a lot of beautiful things to do with the German language. So right from the start, set yourself some kind of goal and work towards it. The most dedicated students also make the fastest progress. If you want to reach a conversational level in German quickly, it can be done in just a few months with the right methods. And since German and English are related languages, there will be a lot of aspects that you recognize right away. So the first question will be how to get started with learning. It sounds kind of lame and boring, but the CEFR language levels are actually a good orientation point because they give you a solid structure. The language exams also follow more or less this format. So you start with A1 and with time you work your way up to the higher levels. And by the way, let me know your German level in the comments. So the most important thing to keep in mind when learning German is a concept called immersion. And this means exposing yourself to language as much as possible on a day-to-day basis. Trust me, it's way more enjoyable than cramming grammar tables all day. And you don't need to move to Germany to do this. It can help, but instead you can also bring Germany to you. And there's this beautiful thing called the internet that we all have access to. So there is no excuse, you can immerse yourself in the language right where you are from home. So change your phone, laptop, or even your social media settings to German. You can go on a walk while listening to a German podcast, or listen to German music while washing your dishes, for example. And this constant exposure will speed up your learning. You can't expect to get fluent just by picking up a grammar book for 2 hours once a week. Our brain needs this constant input, this constant flow of language information. And this input can be different things. It can be an online course, a German movie, or live classes at a language institute. And the more you do this, the better your language skills are going to get. Guaranteed. So in the end, language learning is personal. So please choose what to focus on based on your interests and needs. You don't need to force yourself to learn the conjugation patterns in the beginning if you don't feel like it. Now, if you want a solid structure for learning German, you can check out my language program Speedy German in the video description. It's the most affordable program out there, and I made it specifically for students who want to study and work in Germany. So when it comes to learning German, people often ask me, should I learn vocabulary or grammar first? So my recommendation is do both, but in context. And let me explain, because there's actually an amazing strategy that's going to speed up your journey to fluency. So in German, you learn 75% of the grammar in the first 3 levels, so A1, A2 and B1, but only about 25% of the vocabulary. And this is intentional because you only need about 1000 words to be able to speak basic German. But grammar is the foundation for constructing sentences. I know German grammar can seem intimidating at first. We've all heard of the infamous 4 cases and 3 noun genders in German. That doesn't really sound easy, right? But here's a big tip from my side. Don't get too hung up on mastering grammar right away. Perfectionism is the big enemy here. Instead of just memorizing grammar tables, combine your learning with real-life phrases. So you need to put everything in context. For example, on the A1 level, you start with simple phrases like introducing yourself and asking for directions. And this way you're using basic grammar, but also learning vocabulary naturally at the same time. And the key concept to focus on is high-yield knowledge. So in the beginning, you need to prioritize the things that will give you the most benefit. And this means don't learn all the nuances of grammar and don't learn all these exceptions. German is full of these nasty exceptions, but you can always do this later. In the beginning, just do the basics. Now, something that is really important in the beginning is sentence structure. Understanding German word order and the SVO structure will make forming sentences much easier. And the same also goes for key verb conjugations and modal verb forms. Start with the present tense and then gradually transition to past tense and the future tense. Sooner or later, you will inevitably stumble upon these big conjunction and declension tables. And please avoid memorizing all of them in the beginning. Students spend too much time on this. The different forms will come naturally with practice and the immersion technique. Your primary goal should be to communicate and be understood. That's it. This is the core of every language learning process. You understand people and people understand you. And that's it. Even if you make small mistakes, people will still understand you. So in short, learning German is mostly about learning to appreciate your mistakes. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, and that's absolutely okay. So here is the most effective approach to learning grammar topics. So first, start by learning a small grammar structure, for example the sentence structure. As a second step, understand how it is formed. And number 3, then observe how native speakers use it. You can watch German media for that. And number 4, as a next step, take an active approach to immersion. When you see a grammar structure, notice it and think, oh, that's how it's used here. And number 5, practice creating sentences with that grammar structure. And this is where you need concrete focused exercises, like the ones I have in Speedy German. And the same goes for words. Learning individual words won't get you far if you don't know how to use them in context. So instead of memorizing random words, learn phrases and common sentence structures. For example, instead of learning the word essen, to eat in isolation, learn the phrase Ich möchte etwas essen. I would like to eat something. And you do this by prioritizing high-frequency words. And this means you learn the most common 1000 words. The top 1000 most commonly used words in German cover about 80% of everyday conversations. It's that powerful. And I would say when it comes to vocabulary, try to limit your study sessions to about 20 to 25 minutes at a time. So one of the most valuable things you can do is understand your own limits. So during your studies, pay attention to when your concentration begins to drop, and then push yourself a little further, but not too far. Now, a big part of learning German is pronunciation. So watching movies and videos in German is already a pretty good way to improve your pronunciation. The most important aspect is to learn directly from a native speaker who can speak flawless German. I mean 10 out of 10 pronunciation without any accent. Your future self will thank you for that. Even on the lower levels of German, you can seriously start looking for language buddies and online tutors you can have a proper conversation with. It's all about getting this conversation exposure as early as possible. I see it all the time. Students come to Germany and their German skills suddenly skyrocket because they're forced to interact with native speakers and also get into situations where you need German. A big mistake I see people make is waiting to speak until they feel ready. Now here's the truth, you'll never feel 100% ready. The key is to start speaking as early as possible, even if your grammar isn't perfect. I know it's really uncomfortable in the beginning, but trust me, you'll be surprised how fast you can become comfortable and confident. So I would say in the end, consistency and volume are the 2 key ingredients for success. In language learning, usually the more you do, the better. We underestimate how good our brains are at learning new things if you are properly exposed to them over a long enough time frame. A single 4-hour workout once a month won't get you in shape, just like cramming language lessons won't make you fluent. Instead, aim for 20 to 30 minutes of study each day and build a sustainable schedule. There is no magical shortcut to fluency, but it is possible for anyone who puts in the effort. In case you want to learn German directly from me, check out Speedy German and also other useful resources in the video description. Subscribe and join our huge Discord community. Love you and stay focused.